Once upon a time, in a world full of bananas and blue overalls, a tiny, yellow tidal wave washed over Washington, D.C. Yup, you guessed it, the Minions had arrived. Their mission, though nobody could quite understand their gibberish, was simple. Operation White House Takeover. The first to arrive was Kevin, followed by a stampede of hundreds of his yellow buddies. They waddled up the grand steps, their little legs a blur of motion. Suddenly, Kevin tripped on a shoelace, sending him rolling like a little yellow bowling ball. Bam! He crashed right into the front door, which swung wide open. The Minions stared, their eyes wide. Was it really that easy? They cheered, Bidoo? Bidoo, and swarmed inside. But as the last Minion waddled through, the giant door began to creak shut. Would they be trapped inside forever? Inside, the White House was a wonderland of shiny floors and fancy furniture. Stewart, ever, the rock star, slid across the polished marble, using a priceless vase as a microphone. Bien, he sang, his voice echoing through the grand hall. The other Minions joined in, a chorus of gibberish rock and roll. But their concert was cut short by a loud, echoing thump from upstairs. A strange shadow loomed at the top of the staircase. What could it be? The Minions froze, their single or double eyes wide with fear. The shadow moved, and then a fluffy white cat with a fancy collar trotted down the stairs. It was the first cat! The Minions sighed in relief, then immediately fell in love. Bob ran forward. Teddy Bear, Tim held tight, offering the cat a hug. The cat, however, was not impressed. It hissed, its fur standing on end, and darted away, knocking over a suit of armor with a deafening clang. The noise was so loud, surely someone heard that. The crash echoed through the halls, and the Minions scattered like startled pigeons. Two of them, Dave and Jerry, found themselves in a huge, round room. The Oval Office. Dave, seeing the big red button on the president's desk, couldn't resist. His finger hovered over it. A sign read, "Do not push." But to a Minion, that's just a suggestion, right? He looked at Jerry, grinned, and slowly pushed the button. Suddenly, red lights flashed everywhere and a loud siren blared. What did they just do? Alarms wailed as a hidden panel in the wall slid open, revealing a secret passage. The Minions, thinking it was a new game, cheered and piled into the dark tunnel. It was a slide! Whee! They zipped down, laughing and shouting, landing in a pile in a room filled with strange gadgets and blinking lights. It was a secret command center! But on a giant screen, a countdown timer had just appeared. 60, 59, 58. What was it counting down to? The Minions stared at the screen, their giggles fading. One of them, Carl, who was wearing a siren on his head, started mimicking the alarm sound. Beat, he yelled, spinning in circles. Another Minion accidentally leaned on a control panel, and the screen changed. It now showed a giant rocket, ready for launch. The countdown continued. 45. 44! The Minions had accidentally started a rocket launch. Could they stop it in time? Panic erupted. The Minions ran around the command center, pressing every button they could reach. One button made toasts pop up. Another released a bunch of balloons. A third started playing disco music. They were getting nowhere. Kevin, trying to be a leader, pointed at a big lever labeled Launch Abort. It was their only hope, but the lever was high up on the wall, way out of their reach. The clock ticked down. 30, 29. Thinking fast, the Minions formed a wobbly yellow tower, climbing on top of each other's shoulders. Kevin was at the very top, stretching his little fingers just inches from the lever. But the Minion at the bottom, holding everyone up, suddenly spotted a banana that had rolled under the console. His eyes went wide. He couldn't resist. As he reached for the banana, the entire Minion tower started to wobble. Were they all going to come crashing down? The tower swayed violently. Whoa! Whoa! They all yelled. Kevin lunged, his fingertips brushing the lever just as the tower collapsed. The minions tumbled to the floor in a big, giggling pile. They looked up at the screen. The countdown had stopped. But then, a new message flashed on the screen. SELF destruct sequence initiated. The room started shaking, and a new, faster countdown began. 10, 9, 8. They had made it worse. The minions scrambled for the exit, but the door was locked. They were trapped in a self-destructing secret bunker! Bob, clutching his teddy bear, started to cry. But Stuart wasn't giving up. He spotted a ventilation shaft cover on the ceiling. It was small, but maybe, just maybe, they could fit. With a heroic effort, the other minions boosted him up. With a mighty grunt, he kicked the cover off. But could they all escape through that tiny hole in time? One by one, the minions squeezed through the vent. It was a tight fit. They crawled through the dark, dusty air ducts, following Carl's Badoo siren. Suddenly, the vent beneath them gave way. Aha! They tumbled out of the ceiling and landed in a soft, bouncy pile. They looked around. They were in a bedroom filled with pillows and stuffed animals. They had landed on the president's bed, but the whole house was still shaking from the countdown. Was it too late? Suddenly, the shaking stopped. The self-destruct sequence had failed. The minions cheered, but their celebration was cut short by the sound of approaching footsteps and serious-sounding voices. The Secret Service! The minions dove for cover, hiding under the bed, behind curtains, and inside the closet. The door swung open, and 2 agents in dark suits and sunglasses walked in. Would they be discovered? One agent spoke into his wrist. All clear in the residence. Seems to be a system malfunction. As they turned to leave, a lone banana peel lay in the middle of the floor. The first agent didn't see it. He stepped right on it. He flipped, flying into the air and landing perfectly back on his feet. His partner just stared. But as the first agent took another step, he slipped on a second banana peel, this time crashing into a wardrobe. The door burst open, and a dozen terrified minions tumbled out. The agent stared, stunned, speechless. A pile of little yellow creatures blinked back at them. Before anyone could move, Kevin, thinking fast, grabbed a fire extinguisher. P-S-H-H-H-H, he sprayed a huge cloud of white foam, covering everything and everyone. It was total chaos! In the confusion, the minions made a break for it. They scrambled out of the room, leaving the 2 agents covered in foam and utter bewilderment. But where could they go now? They ran pell-mell back towards the main entrance, slipping and sliding on the polished floors. They could hear more footsteps approaching from all directions. They were surrounded. Just as they reached the front hall, they saw it. The front door was still open, just a crack. It was their only way out. But a whole team of agents was rounding the corner, getting closer by the second. Would they make it? With a final, desperate push, the minions squeezed through the door one by one, tumbling onto the White House lawn. They had escaped. They ran across the green grass, not stopping until they were a safe distance away, a giggling, jabbering, yellow mob. They turned back and looked at the magnificent building. Lights were flashing in every window, and sirens could be heard all over the city. They had done it. They had taken over the White House. For a little while. But as they cheered, a black helicopter suddenly appeared in the sky, hovering directly above them. A rope ladder dropped down. Who was in the helicopter? A figure in a long-nosed mask and a gray scarf leaned out of the helicopter. It was Gru! Minions! He yelled. What did you do now? The minions just cheered louder, thrilled to see their boss. They scrambled up the ladder, a chaotic yellow stream climbing into the sky. Safely inside, they chattered excitedly, trying to explain their adventure. Gru just shook his head and sighed. As the helicopter flew away, one little minion, Bob, looked out the window, waved his teddy bear at the White House, and whispered, "Bye-bye, big house." What would their next adventure be? We'll just have to wait and see. Thanks for watching! And don't forget to like and subscribe for more Minion Madness.